It tells stories about people.
What went wrong last time when you got caught? I forgot to be scared because I liked it too much.
And you build empathy that way.
You ever think about leaving? You're so close. Please stay out of trouble.
What if I lost my insurance?
The pregnancy and birth is going to be about 8,000 or 9,000.
Closest place for an abortion, she said. Where is it? Hundreds of miles away.
I'm sorry. It's been a rough time for a lot of people.
Trust me, if you sell the house, you'd pay us to keep it.
Where are you going to get the money, Ollie?
I'll figure something out.
You're just learning how to care about people. And I think that's really important. And that's why it's so powerful. I make films because I really like connecting with people, and I really like learning about people. A big thing about what I love so much about screenwriting and directing. Well, the screenwriting part is like all the research I get to do and like figuring out like different time periods and different people and the way people live now or before, or thinking about how they'll live in the future. And then the directing is like I love collaborating with people. I love working with my actors, with my department heads. Like I just love the process of making a movie. And then I make my films for. I wouldn't say like I don't try to make films that everyone will like, but I think I like to make films that like anyone could sort of engage with and empathize with the characters. I try to make films that are human, so they're like character based and like people based, as opposed to like, you know, trying to tell someone, you know, give someone a moral or something like that. But yeah, I think every part of the filmmaking process, like why I make them and who they're for, it's all about connecting. But I think something I'm really passionate about is just making movies about like unconventional, interesting women and like their unconventionality making them dangerous in some way, whether it's like physically and it's like a genre film and they're like assassins or something, or it's like, you know, socially people are like, oh, you're freaking us out with all your all your difference. I think those are interesting, not often told stories. Yeah. My earliest film, like theater memory, is crying so much my dad had to take me out of Jurassic Park when I was like 3 or 4, and I must have been 3 actually, because that movie came out like. But anyway, I remember that so clearly because now it's like one of my favorite movies, and I can watch it anytime it's on television. But I don't know what I thought was happening. I was just like, I don't like dinosaurs. I don't, you know what I mean? But man, I think really like VHS tapes have been just like whatever has been around has been a big thing for me. So like as opposed to like Netflix where you go on and you're like, okay, like I can choose anything. When I like the VHS tapes that were like just in my house, my mom watched, so, like American Beauty was a big one. In my dorms in junior high school and high school, Apocalypse Now was one of the VHS tapes in my high school dorm. And I remember watching it and just thinking, this is amazing and insane. And I think those, which is like not like one experience, but just how casually like these things were just a part of the ecosystem, I think really influenced me. And in junior high school, the big one was Casablanca, was like just hanging out next to Grease, you know, and in the VHS stack. Yeah, I don't know if I have one big, but I guess if I did have one like prominent experience, it would have been watching Apocalypse Now and just understanding, oh, you could do anything. So I'm really influenced by paintings. I love going to museums. So sometimes it won't even be about a specific artist, but I'll see characters in the paintings, and I'm like, oh, that person's life's really interesting, or there will just be certain situations that I find really fascinating. There was a painting called like La Tertulia or something. It's a Spanish painting, and that like influenced an entire play that I wrote. It's 4 women sitting in a living room. They're all wearing different colored shirts. And I was like, oh, I wonder who those women are. And so I wrote this whole play about like 4 women living in Franki's Spain. On the music side, oh man, it's tricky to say because I kind of go and search for certain moods or feelings to help me fill out the rest of the story that I'm telling. I guess, okay, so novelists I think would be the biggest thing for me because there's other storytellers. So Virginia Woolf is a huge one. A lot of like Southern Gothic writers were really influential to me when I was growing up, just because they have the sense of place and the place being so important, but also like amazing characters. And I love anything that's kind of about like American decay. I find that really fascinating. And oh man, who else? Jane Austen was a huge one. I read this book, Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, which is like, I guess, the seminal, work. And that was a huge a lot of this I read when I was like kind of maybe too young to be reading it because my mother was studying English at the time. So books and literature have always been really, really important in that way. 16, I would say I really knew what it meant, and what attracted me about film and how I wanted to be a part of that. With 16, it was like when I was watching all those films from the 70s, and just thinking, wow, like these guys just were able to make these crazy movies. Like I remember watching Network and just being like, what? You know, like I was like, this is amazing, and like I couldn't even. It just expanded my mind so much, and I was like, oh, those are the directors. Like that's what they're doing. The writers, the directors. Like that's where it's happening. That's what I feel like I can bring and what I can give. And so that's about when it happened. Because I was a writer first, you know, I used to write poetry, then it was prose, and then it was like, oh, scripts and, you know, TV shows and plays. Like that was my entryway into directing. And it still is, I think, for a lot of it. I like the balance of writing for like 6 months, and you're just kind of like for me it looks like I write from like 10 to 6 or something, and then I like every night I'll like go see a friend or have dinner, go see a movie or a play, and then I'm like, oh, life's so peaceful, how wonderful. And then I start to get a little like, okay, like I've just been writing by myself all day, and then like the film gets made and I'm directing and I'm on set and I'm like, you know, I'm like pew pew, like let's do this thing, and like lots of people around, lots of stuff to do. So I love like the balance of like being on set and also being alone. It's like a really good mix, I think, for my personality, which is like the introvert extrovert thing, I think. You know, it's like the balance of the two is like it's really great, but it is exhausting to make a movie. So it's lovely to be like, all right, I'm gonna go write for 6 months again or a year or something, and then kind of go back into it. To do the work, and the work kind of has to be enough in a certain respect, just because there's no guarantee that things are going to work out in like the way your wildest dreams. And even when they do like work out, it never goes exactly the way you think it will. But yeah, doing the work, because that's like why we do it, you know? Like, it is a medium that we need like an audience for. But I think just being able to figure out a way to find the space to do it. And the other thing is, when people say write what you know, you should write what you know, like emotionally, not necessarily like where you're from or like what your own personal demographic is. It's just like what you know is how you connect with other people, because other people know that as well. So I think if you can be honest about what you know emotionally, that's like the best way to connect with people. So what we did have was like the Avery Fisher Center, which is actually amazing. So I don't want anyone to come from NYU saying, excuse me. And I know there's an archival program there. But what I think is really cool about your archive is how much it deals with things that aren't necessarily like cinema. You know, it's like when I heard it was like instructional videos and like people's home videos and that sort of thing. I was like, oh, that's amazing, because when I do research for real people, that's where I would go. And so having that record of humanity is really interesting, even if it's things people don't care about at all or didn't think were that important. So I think it would have been really cool doing research in an archive like that in college. I think it's so important to have a good cinema program, because even people who aren't into cinema, like, it's great if they have resources that they can connect with, like, this fairly new medium. It's only, 100-something years old, which I think is so amazing when I think about how it's just, like, kind of taken over the way we experience, like, stories, which makes sense. But I think that's really important. And also just, like, having a place, especially that's not in New York or LA, that different people can come to, different types of people than, like, the New York or LA types or people who travel there. So we have different stories. Oh man, I think what I love about IU is that you guys have your archive, which is so impressive, and also like how specific the archive is and how special it is and unique. I think that's really exciting. And for me, I would have loved to have something that like amazing, just like to go visit, you know, every so often. It's so important to have a record of the stories we've told. So that's one thing. But then in terms of like a good cinema program, like, I don't know, like, people have to be able to learn how to tell the stories in film. Like, there's just so many elements to it. It's just so useful to have resources and structure.